That's a lot of energy to follow, brother. I'm tired. First, let me say that I'm the vice chair of this body, the Committee of Concerned Citizens. And like you've heard from other people tonight, I've never been in elected office. I've also never run for office. I've never wanted to be in office. I was an advocate. I was an advocate for people and for communities, for people in communities. I've been fighting as a part of this body and others in the city to fight for youth, to fight for elderly, to fight for homeless, with Ms. Christina Flowers and following her lead. I don't know the issues of homeless people. I'm supposed to stand here and tell you that I know everything and I have an answer for everything. I did not know the issues of homeless people. I know there were homeless people. I know that there are homeless veterans. I know that I had a problem with the city spending $40,000 to build a fence around the war memorial without finding out if any of the homeless people who slept on those steps were veterans. I'm the advocate. And that's part of the problem in Baltimore City, is elected people were not advocates before they ran for office. They should come through institutions like this. They should come through churches like that. They should come from families of advocates before they run for office. And then you would know who they were before they ran. They wouldn't have to come up here and introduce themselves and sound splendid. So I'm tired right now because it's been a long 2 days, because I've been in Annapolis until 11 o'clock last night and all day today. Not because I'm a legislator, because I'm fighting for legislation for the people who I stand for. So I'm not fully versed on the operation of City Hall, because I've never been here, but I have the aptitude to learn it. I have the aptitude, and I am well versed on how legislation works and how it's passed down to communities, and how the people at the top are fighting to keep the process within those doors, and we don't see the trickle down in the community. One of my biggest issues is this issue of criminal justice reform, and people locked into cycles of criminal records, felonies in particular. We know that mass incarceration was fully fueled by the war on drugs. But what we don't talk about is that the result of the war on drugs were not misdemeanor records that the Maryland Second Chance Act addressed, but were felony records. The difference between the felony and the misdemeanor is a small step from possession to possession with the intent. And that's up to the arresting officer who had a quota, who we see the videos on YouTube where they're told before they go out, we need more felony arrests. So what are they going to do? The NACDL has identified that these officers have gained as much as 4 hours overtime. They get promotions. So now it is an incentive-based job where the more felony arrests you bring in, the more money you can make. It's just like a bounty. This is my issue. This issue also affects schools. Because when that person who comes home from prison and who feels like they have no projection on their future, when they get home, the house that they're in, is there a young man in that house? Or is there a young man next door? We talk about young men walking around with their pants sagging, and they say that comes from prison. Well, how they learned that they hadn't been in prison yet? If we want to break a cycle, we have to find the linchpin in that cycle and pull it out. This issue, when I go from door to door, which I've never done before, not in this capacity. I've done it when I worked in group homes, to go to the homes of those young men to see what's going on in that environment. But when I go to these doors now, if I can make it up the steps, because the person in that house is usually 50, 60, 70 years old. The first thing they say is, I'm scared to death. I don't come out. These people on the corner, or this crime, this increase in crime, again, I'm in the 5th district, which is right up the street. They say there's increase in crime, and they're worried about their property values. You got 1 minute? Thank you, sir. We have to remember that sometimes crime recidivism is simply driven by people knowing that the only job they can get is right on the corner. Some people can work past that they have a record. But a lot of people feel like the only thing they can do is go back to what they know, and it's right in the street. In Baltimore City, we can address economic development, we can address education. These are all very important things. If we don't be very real about the crime issue in our city and these different very local districts, we will not change anything. Outside. All right.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Me?
Yeah, you
I have a comment. There are several organizations that will help individuals who have records to get their records expunged. For instance, on Monday, January 18th, Bethel A&E, through a guy named Mark Montgomery, will help individuals who have a record get their records. Pardon me?
Mark Matthews?
Mark Montgomery at Bethel A&E on January 18th Also, there's an organization known as the Center for Urban Families that will help you do that. And also, there's an organization that meets every Tuesday called Turnaround Tuesday, the 1700 block of North Carolina Street, that will help you do that. And if you need more information, here's my card. I can, give you the numbers and the contact person.
Can I address it? Go right ahead.
I need to address this comment because this is exactly what I said. What can be expunged are only misdemeanors. You cannot expunge a felony in the state of Maryland, period. Not any level of felony. So again, you cannot expunge any felony. The only relief for a felony in the state of Maryland is a governor's pardon. No governors across the country are using their pardon powers because it's a political football. This is also why we don't have felony expungement in the state of Maryland. There are a number of states that do. There are 2 states where you can vote while you're incarcerated. So I'm very well versed on the issue of expungement, shielding, pardons, clemency, all of that. But in Maryland, you cannot expunge a felony at any level. Yes, sir, Mr. Allen.
What Mr. Ervin is saying is vital. It's worse than that. You can't expunge misdemeanors either. It depends on the offense, and it depends on your sentence. But it's out of control, and judges, like what you were talking about with possession with intent for possession, it could be a one-piece case, but depending on the facts of the case, the way it's spun out, you can see the person may have an addiction, or it could be a kid caught up in the game. It doesn't have to be a felony conviction. There's so much discretion in the courts when the parties are working out pleas. You can give people probation before judgment. That is expungible because you can go back in front of the judge. You don't need a new law. And people just have to understand, like you're saying, the collateral consequences down the road for getting work, getting loans.
So if I could, just to clarify very quickly again, and like I said, I'm not a politician, but this particular issue, I work on at the city, state, and federal level. I'm very well versed on this issue and how it impacts our community. I myself have a criminal record. And so when I've gone through this process and I'm looking at how we got here, how this environment was created that we're interacting in, I understand exactly how it works. And there are too many people that when I was at Pennsylvania and North Avenue throughout all of that, I actually shot it as a photographer with a partner of mine, and we did a video that went viral, and some people in the room have seen it. When you talk to people and you say, well, why are you so angry? Knowing the answers, but not wanting to lead them. Why are you so angry? Man, I can't get work. Well, why can't you get work? Because I have a criminal record. Go get it expunged. Man, I got felonies. You cannot expunge a felony, no matter how long. Some people think that that can't happen right after the record. You have people who did something at 20 and they are now 45. They have a job. They have 2 or 3 kids, and they still have on their record. So God forbid something happened to them on that job, and now they need to get a new job. Again, that criminal record comes up, and they have to address that. So even with banning the box, well, I don't want to.
One more question,
Yes,
back,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, so what's going to be the solution to how those persons with felonies are going to clean that up in Baltimore City or the state of Maryland? What is going to be the strategy for that?
No solution.
The strategy that I specifically have proposed at the legislative level, and we just got a draft of the bill back, is to begin with nonviolent felony expungement. And what it is a may, and Mr. Ervin, it is a may shield, shall expunge. In other words, after the person has finished any and all parole and probation, finished paying any and all fines, fees, or penalties, that they may be shielded. And what that allows a state's attorney, a judge, whoever, just like in the parole process, they can look at the facts of the matter, and if the person's eligible, they can be shielded. And then at the conclusion of the shielding period, if they've done everything again that they're supposed to do, haven't had any interaction with law enforcement other than minor traffic, they shall be expunged. Now what this does, again, the person is now 6, 8 years removed from walking out of prison. So they've had time to show their character and their comportment in the community. And there's no reason, if it's a nonviolent charge, and they haven't been in trouble for years, that they shouldn't be able to get it expunged. All right. That's going to be a direct impact on Baltimore City and other cities in the state of Maryland. So again, as much as I'm here for the 5th district, and I will work at the city level like I have, anything that we can do on the city council can also impact the rest of the city. And we as city council members should be fighting in Annapolis for what we need for our city.
But the violent charges aren't going to be able to do it.
Okay, we gotta keep it moving. The next one.
I'm sorry.
We gotta keep moving. With the every year.
What would happen when you have people coming out of prison, right? And They come out, they pay their debts to society in prison. When they come out, then you tell them that they can't have a job, okay? What are you doing? Pushing them back out in the street.
Back into prison.
Back into prison because,
There you go.
yeah,
I just want to clarify, you said that's what I'm saying?
That's all you, yup, mark the beast.
what would you do if you became elected, if you were elected? About that problem.
That's what I just laid out to you.
Okay.
I am fighting for the legislation that says when they come out of prison, that there will be a process that they can get their record expunged later. Now, immediately, you have things that people have to buy into their own condition. People can go out, and there's a lot of organizations, Center for Urban Families, there's Out for Justice, there's these different organizations. They can go right on Park Heights right now and get training to be a welder. People have to, they need more resources to know what resources are out there. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I have an office in this rec center, where we give out all of that information, where I'm running copies off on my copier, on my dime, to get all of the information of where people can get jobs, what jobs will hire ex-offenders, and all of that. So again, it's about getting information.
All right,
We have to call our next candidate, which happens to be